there, Heather Boyd Wire here, and welcome to day 10, the last day of the 10-day wire bracelet making challenge. So if you're participating in the challenge, you can see the details below in the description. You can either participate on Facebook or you can participate on Discord. So today we're going to make this super funky bracelet. This is one I made many years ago, and I figured out a way to do it on the jig, but you don't need the jig to make it. So what you're going to need for this project are your tools. You're going to need 20 gauge wire, a whole bunch of jump rings. These are about 6mm. Optional clasp. You can also add beads if you want. I'm not going to for this project. And also optional is using the Artistic Wire Deluxe Jig Kit. Either you can make your own jig, or you can also just simply use a ruler to measure your distances. So if you're using the jig, it's pretty straightforward. You just form a square. So I did like a peg, a space, a peg. And what you want to do is just take your wire and kind of center it. And you're going to form the loops. So you're just going to bring this around the 4, and you want to finish it sort of like halfway. So we're going to start there and then do the other one. And like I said, I'm going to show you a way you can do it without the jig, or if you want to make your own jig by sticking nails in a board, you totally can do that too. So now what we're going to do is, once you have the configuration, you're going to bend it up. So either put your fingernail in there or put your pliers or something, and then you want to bring this one around. I always like kind of go beyond the nail a little bit just to give it a nice like bit of tension there, and then we're going to wind it around this one here because we want to keep it spaced apart with the nails or the pegs as we go. Otherwise you can just do this off the jig as well. So we're going to do a few little rounds of that, and then you're going to pull it off the jig, and what you can do is from there you can just do the rest of your windings. So I wanted to have a little bit of a spring there, so we're just going to bring it up a few times, and you know, however many times you want. They can all be a little bit different too. And then what we're going to do is take our flat pliers and just bend it right down. So this is sort of down like that. I could have done more of a spring. I'll probably do more of a spring on some of the other ones. You can also like touch up these to make sure they're flat depending on your wire. If you're using an aluminum wire that's a little softer, it actually might be a little easier to work with because you can almost sculpt it. And then from there you just can go a little funky, get a little abstract here, and you just want to squiggle these around, or you can add beads to those. So basically I'm just going to go kind of back and forth like this, you know, any which way that you want. Any way that looks good. And as long as you have enough wire, like I always try to cut it a little too long than too short, because that way I have a little more leeway. And then we're just going to bring this one around here and clip the end. So there's one. This is just a craft wire from Michael's. You could definitely use a better wire than this. And you could also use sterling silver. Or sometimes when I make my higher end stuff for the gallery, I'll actually use Argentine silver, which is like sterling, but it is a lower tarnish. So this is fun. We're just filling it in with squiggles, and then we're going to hold it here. If you need to help it along the bend, this is one of my little hacks. I just put the pliers here and bend it around first, and then that way it won't get pulled out of shape. Or stick it there and then bring that up, and we can clip it. And a good way to hide those little rough ends is if you just push it underneath, and it'll get like flush under there. So that's a great way, a great little hack to avoid those little sticky ends. So this is really cute. So this is just one of the elements of the bracelet. Now to make the triangular shape one, because you're going to interspace with triangular ones, although there is an option if you just want to do a bunch of square ones, you could totally attach them like side by side or kind of diagonally like that. So to make the triangle, we're going to cut another piece of the wire. It doesn't have to be quite as long as the other piece, so let's cut about 6 inches. and we're just going to stick it on the jig here, bring this around and do your first one. I always bend it a little beyond the peg and then back. It just gives it a crisper bend. And then this one here, we're going to bring it around here. And if it's easier, just pull the other peg out. If it's going to get in your way, no problem. And then we're going to bring this one around here. And mathematically, I'm not sure if this is like the perfect way to do it. You might have to do more of an angle or something. Anyways, this is the way I did it, and it seems to work okay. So I didn't calculate anything, but it just seems like square triangle was a good idea. So here's the triangle shape, and then the same thing, you want to wind this wire around here. So we're going to go ahead and at least start it here, because otherwise it's going to get a little bit distorted, out of place. This wire is a little stiff because it is a craft wire, but if you're using the, like I said, the aluminum or even the copper, it's a little bit easier. So we've got our starting point there. We'll flip it off the jig. Some of these, they're getting caught a bit, so they're getting pulled out, but that's okay. You can just stick them back in, and you're supposed to use these plugs to stick them in place, but the plugs get a little soft after a while. So this is our triangle, and the same thing, we want to wind it around a little bit more. So hold them with the flat pliers if you have to, and then just wind it around. Otherwise you can just remove the pliers, put this around a few times, however many times you want. And then we're going to bend this over. So this is going to get bent over. And the same thing, we're just going to make it quite abstract. So we'll split these a bit. We can adjust these so it's more straight. And if you find it's too difficult to do the triangles and the squares, like I said, just do the squares. It's totally fine. So we're going to go back and forth. You won't have as much wiggle room for this one, so just do what you can with it to make some kind of squiggles and stuff. So I'm just going to try to bring that down a bit more. If I had done less springs, I would have had more room for the bending back and forth. So there's the first one, and then the same thing, we could start the bend with the pliers there. This is a little long, but it's all right. So we're going to stick that one in there, around, perfect. Give that a little clip in there, and then push it so it's flush, and then the other side. So however you want to do it, we don't have a lot of wire to work this with on that side, so I'll just keep it simple, back and forth and back and forth. And you'll see, don't worry too much about how perfect this is, because once all the pieces are together, it's really not going to make much difference. So we're going to bring this one around and put it through and clip it again. And then what you have to do is just make a bunch of these shapes, and then I will show you how to put them all together, and that's going to be the fun part. It's going to be like a little puzzle. So we've got the triangle and the square. So if you don't have the jig, you're just going to use the ruler. So what you can do is just start to the one side of the middle here. Use your larger round pliers if you have them, just so you can keep your loops a little bit consistent. If not, you can just do a marking on your pliers to know at what level that you're bending it, like use a Sharpie or something, or scratch it with a stronger metal. And so we're going to start here, and then from there what we want to do is measure. It seems to be about 3/4 of an inch, the distance. So then you're going to put your pliers here and just start the bend here. And then what you want to do after that is double check it. So go back, double check it to make sure it's right. If it needs to be longer, you unroll it. If it needs to be shorter, you roll it up a little more. So we're just going to go around like that. Keep going. So you see it's quite easy to do without the jig as well. And then here, same thing. We're going to just measure it 3/4. Just put our fingernail on there. Start it. Double check it. Yeah, it looks too long now, so we're going to bring it in a little bit. We can double check it again. That looks good. And then this side too. So we're going to just bring it here, start it like that. and check it out. Yeah, that looks really good. So that was a good guess. So now we're going to bring it in here. And then this one, we're going to bring it, we can move the ruler, bring that one in here. And then we want to bend it around the halfway point here. And then this one, we want to eyeball it. You can also measure it again if you're not good with dimensions. You can just make sure it's there, about there, and then you're going to just start the bend again and then measure it out again to make sure it's not going to, yep, perfect. So that's good. So then we're going to just take that and then you wind it around. And then you just continue how we did before, however many bends you want. We'll do another one there. And then we're going to do like we did, bend it over, and then you can go ahead and do your squigglies like we did in the first one. So for the triangle, same thing. We're going to start with one loop here and measure it around the 3/4 mark. Bring it around, double check it. Looks good. So I'm going to bring it around here. So if you don't have a jig to do the triangle, we're just going to start by doing our first circle with the pliers. Bring it around here. And then we want to measure the 3/4 of an inch, which is what we had for the sides of the square. So just double check it to make sure it's okay. So we're just going to make that shape. And then another one, we're going to do the same. This is going to also be 3/4 of an inch. So just measure that out and bring it back and forth to the ruler if you have to. Just make sure it's perfect. And we're just going to bend it around as much as we can. Best to get the proportions as good as you can, just so all the pieces are going to fit together. And so we have our two sides. Now what has to happen here is the middle line actually has to be a bit longer. So it's like an uneven triangle. Two sides are the same and the other side is a little bit longer. So this side I actually worked out it has to be 7/8 of an inch. So we're just going to go ahead and bend that one sort of up at a right angle towards the middle. And then we're going to bring it onto the ruler again and make sure that this is spaced in a way that it's 7/8. So if you have to spread it a bit to get the middle line a little longer, you're going to just have to do some fiddling around. So we're going to bring it up to here. So we just measure it, so that's about 7/8. And then we'll go ahead and take the round pliers, the little round pliers are best. Bring it around, pull it tight, and then just double check it again. It probably will have to be tightened up a bit, but that's okay because we can just go ahead and go around the few times that we have to go around. Okay, and then we can measure it again because sometimes it gets pulled in a little bit, so that looks perfect. And we can just take this, bend it over here, and then we're going to start doing our fancy stuff like we did with the one on the jig. So now I've made 6 of the square ones and 10 of the triangles, 5 on each side. You have a few choices here. So we can jump ring them together all like that to make a nice little band. That's how I did sort of like this original one. But if you don't want to do that, if that's too much, no worries. We can just eliminate the triangles. Okay, we can eliminate those, and you can just jump ring them together like this. And you can alternate like the springs if you want them going different directions and stuff too. It's really doesn't super matter, so we can just go like that. And you can just do jump ring, jump ring, jump ring, jump ring, jump ring, jump ring. And then you might need an extra square to make it a little longer, and then we would add like a couple of jump rings and then the clasp, and then a couple of jump rings and another clasp. So that's another option. And if it's still too much, no worries, just do one. And you can attach a chain or a leather cord or a band or whatever you like. So if you are attaching these together like that, what you want to do is take the square one and put your jump ring, and then take the triangle and then make sure it's in the same, direction, and then put your jump ring there. So that's your first step, is just to attach those ones, and then you'll see that'll go down like that, and then get another jump ring, and we're going to attach the other square one to the other side. So just take the jump ring and stick it through the top of the triangle, and then stick it the square one on there, and then close up the jump ring. So there we have those, and so it won't wiggle around. Let's go ahead and jump ring those together. So we're gonna get another one, a little fiddly, but you'll get the hang of it. So we'll stick that one, and then the bottom end of the triangle, stick it through there. These are about 6mm jump rings. You can always use slightly larger ones if it's easier, depending on how thick your wire is. So that one's attached there, and now we have to do another jump ring in here. Maybe I should do a little diagram of this. If anyone has any trouble, just let me know. I could always draw like a little diagram or something, or you could just pause the video and have a look at it. So we're just going to close that one up. So there we go, attached there, and then 2 jump rings in the top of the triangle there. So now we have to add the other triangle. So we're just going to get the top of the triangle and stick it in this one here. This took me a while to figure out how to get it all together, but once you have the hang of it, it's going to be fine. So then one more at the top of the triangle to the square. So let's just put it in the square first, and then the top of the triangle. This is why you might opt to do some of the options for this, but this is a really cool effect if you can get it to work and get it all together. It's a challenge, that's why I left it for the last day, but it's definitely a very cool design and a very cool effect. So now we're going to put this one in here. It's sort of like, not like chainmail, but sort of maybe a prep for doing chainmail, which I've never done before, because to me that looks horribly confusing and time consuming. So we're going to just put this one in the bottom, and then you'll see our basic configuration for the setup here. So there we go. So we've got 2 squares and the triangles attached, and then all you're going to have to do is just continue adding the triangle, adding the squares, and adding the triangle until it's all done. So at this point it's all together. You can add like a simple little hooky clasp on the end, or if you want to make your own, you can just take a piece of the 20 gauge wire, bend this back, and make a decent size loop here, and just stick it to one, like in one of the little loops there, and hold this and bring it around. And I wouldn't necessarily advise doing one of those little handmade hooks for this. You wouldn't want this to fall off, especially, it's a little weighty, a little dangly. It could get caught on things. So do your loop, just make sort of the loop end, and then add a closing clasp on the other end, like a lobster clasp or something. So we're just going to bring this right around and bring it right around. You could bend it over that little raw end if you want. I always like to, make them as solid as possible. So you have that end. On the other end, you could just attach your lobster clasp with a jump ring. So stick it on there, put it in there. Perfect. And there you have your cool bracelet with a little clasp. If you have a different kind of lobster clasp or other kind of clasp that's easier for you to hook, go for it. And there we go. Beautiful, funky bracelet with lots of options. So thanks so much for watching the video. Give it a big thumbs up if you liked it. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for lots more DIY wire art and jewelry making videos. Hit the notification bell to be notified when I go live and when I post new videos. And if you'd like to share photos of your wire work, be sure to join the Wire Art and Jewelry Makers Club on Facebook. And if the challenge is already over, no problem. You can still hop over to Facebook and join the community. Or if you don't have Facebook, you can hop into the Discord community there as well. And also, if you'd like to check out my wire art and jewelry on Etsy, my husband and I specialize in custom wedding cake toppers and funky jewelry. And I also have a mailing list, so I'll link that up below. And if you sign up for the mailing list, I'll send you my free Wire Art Essentials ebook. So thanks again for watching. If you're participating in the challenge, good luck, have fun with it, and we'll see you the next time.